I spent 31 years reading blueprints for a living, and a blueprint never lies to you about what's load-bearing. People do. My name is Russell Hartman. I'm 58, retired now from structural design, and the closest I ever came to needing my old skills outside the office was the spring my daughter-in-law decided my wife's hands belonged to her for an entire weekend. 4 weeks before my granddaughter's christening, my daughter-in-law sent my wife a spreadsheet. Not a text, not a call, a spreadsheet. 18 dishes, a guest count of 31, and a column labeled prep start time that read 4:30 a.m. I read it over Donna's shoulder at our kitchen island in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and I thought about every contractor I'd ever fired for handing a crew an impossible schedule and calling it a plan. Before I tell you what we did about it, tell me where you're watching from and what time it is there. I read every comment. Let me back up. Donna and I have been married 36 years. She spent 26 of them as a hospice nurse, which is its own particular education in what people actually need versus what they say they need. She has held more hands at the end of more lives than anyone I've ever met, and she does it without making a show of the cost it takes out of her. She is, in plain terms, the strongest person I know, and like a lot of strong people, she has spent most of her life absorbing things other people should have carried themselves. Our son, Marcus, is 36. Good kid, became a pharmacist, married a woman named Whitney 3 years ago in a backyard wedding with string lights. Donna spent a week untangling and rehanging because the rental company sent them in a knot. I offered to help. She told me to go check the grill. That was Donna's way. She'd rather do a thing twice than ask twice. Whitney was sharp. I want to be fair about that. She ran a successful interior design business out of a studio in Harrisburg, had strong opinions on everything, from seating charts to the correct way to fold a napkin, and in the early days I chalked that up to ambition. It took me longer than I'd like to admit to see the pattern underneath it. Whitney's opinions about what should happen always seemed to include an assumption about what Donna would be doing to make it happen, and there was never a question mark anywhere in the sentence. It started small, the way these things do. Whitney's 30th birthday, 14 months into the marriage. A Tuesday text to Donna. Hey mom, we're thinking low-key dinner Saturday, just the close family, maybe 15 people. Your lasagna would be perfect. No, would you mind? No, only if you're free. Just the lasagna, already assigned. Donna made it. She also made a Caesar salad from scratch and a tiramisu, because she'd once heard Whitney mention she loved tiramisu, and Donna doesn't forget things like that. Nobody thanked her at the table. Whitney posted 4 photos from that dinner on her business Instagram, captioned, "Intimate gathering, my favorite way to entertain." The lasagna wasn't in any of them. 5 months after that, Marcus and Whitney went to Charleston for a long weekend. Marcus called me on a Thursday. Hey Dad, any chance you and Mom can take Biscuit starting tomorrow? Biscuit being their dog. I said sure, we like Biscuit. But I noticed it again. Thursday leaving Friday, first we were hearing of it. I mentioned it to Donna that night. She shrugged it off, said it was fine, the dog wasn't any trouble. I said it wasn't about the dog, it was about the asking. She gave me the look she gives me when she thinks I'm building something out of nothing. Patient, a little tired. The look that means, let's not make this a thing, Russell. I let it go. I shouldn't have. 4 weeks before the christening, my granddaughter Olivia, 6 months old, Marcus and Whitney's first. I was in the den watching the fillies when Donna came in from the kitchen, holding her phone out in front of her like it had bitten her. I read it. A shared spreadsheet, 18 rows. Glazed ham. Scalloped potatoes from scratch, no boxed mix. Green beans almondine. A charcuterie board for 40. Deviled eggs, 2 dozen. A 3-tier cake, not from a bakery, homemade, because Whitney had read that store-bought cakes for christenings were tacky. Mimosas pre-batched. Linens ironed, and, on the tables by 9 a.m., christening at 11. At the bottom, in its own row, highlighted yellow. Donna handling all food prep, thank you, 2 exclamation points. Not could you, not would you be willing, handling. Like a job assignment confirmed and filed. I set the phone down on the arm of the couch, picked it up, read the bottom row again. Donna handling all food prep, like she was a vendor who'd already agreed to terms nobody showed her. I'll call Marcus, I said. No. Donna's voice was quiet, but it had an edge under it I recognized from 30 years of marriage. Let me handle it first. She texted back. That's a lot for one person, honey. Maybe we split it up. Your sister could do dessert. Whitney's reply came back inside of 90 seconds. Oh Mom, you know you're so much better at this than any of us would be. We'll be slammed setting up the lawn and the photo arch. "You've got this." Donna read it twice, set the phone face down on the counter, and didn't say anything for a long minute. I kept my mouth shut and let her get there on her own. 2 Sundays before the christening, Marcus had us over for a casual dinner, take-out Thai. Nothing Whitney had touched in a kitchen. I'll give Whitney this. She never once pretended to be a cook. The pretending lived somewhere else entirely. After dinner, while Whitney's younger sister Paige was in the middle of a story about her new apartment, Donna found a gap and turned to Whitney. "I've been thinking about the christening list," Donna said. "What if we ordered the ham from Wegmans, already glazed? And maybe Paige could handle the cake. I know she bakes." Whitney laughed, the particular kind of laugh that sounds warm on top and locked underneath. She reached over and patted Donna's hand. "Mom, this is literally what you're amazing at. Please don't overthink it. Everyone always talks about your spread for years afterward." Paige nodded along. Her boyfriend Tyler checked his phone. Marcus looked down at his pad thai and said nothing. Not one word. I had raised that boy to speak up when something wasn't right. Had told him more than once that silence in the face of an unfair thing was its own kind of answer. He'd apparently misplaced that lesson somewhere in his 30s. I kept my face still. 31 years of project meetings teaches you that showing your anger before you've decided what to do with it is a waste of the anger. In the car on the way home, I said, "That's not happening, Donna." She looked out the window at the streetlights going by. 31 people, Russell. Alone. Starting before sunrise. She was quiet a beat. "I know then. I already have an idea." I looked over at her. She was almost smiling. "Tell me," I said. That night, Donna called Eleanor Voss. Eleanor had been Donna's closest friend since nursing school, 24 years of knowing each other, through 3 different hospitals and more difficult families than either of them could count. Eleanor had retired down to Asheville, North Carolina, 3 years back, and she and Donna talked every Sunday evening, no matter what. I sat in the den while Donna took the call in the bedroom, and when she came out 25 minutes later, something in her face had settled, like a decision had finished arriving. She sat across from me at the kitchen table and put both hands flat on the wood. "Eleanor invited us for the christening weekend," she said. "Her porch, her mother's cornbread and pulled pork. Just the 3 of us and the mountains." "I'm in," I said. She looked at me. "Just like that, Donna." I folded my hands on the table. "Our daughter-in-law sent you a spreadsheet with your name highlighted in a row labeled food prep. Our son watched it happen and ate his pad thai. Eleanor's offering you a porch in the Blue Ridge Mountains. What exactly is there to decide?" She let out a long breath, the kind that sounds like it's been held for weeks, and pulled her laptop over. I watched her search flights out of Harrisburg International. Saturday morning, the day of the christening, 6:15 a.m. into Asheville. 2 seats, she looked up at me. I nodded once, she hit confirm. The texts kept coming all that week. Monday, quick note. The cake needs to be from scratch. The bakery ones taste like cardboard lol. Wednesday, hey mom, found a great tutorial for the scalloped potatoes if you want it. The boxed kind always tastes off. Friday, one more thing, can you make sure the charcuterie board looks elevated? Bradley and his wife are coming and I want everything to feel special. Bradley, first time that name had come up, I asked Donna who that was. Marcus's department director, she said, from the pharmacy chain corporate office. I sat with that a second. This wasn't a christening anymore. It was a showcase. Whitney wanted to impress her husband's boss, and she decided my wife's hands were the tool she'd use to build that impression, free of charge, on no notice before sunrise. Each text landed with total certainty, and not one please. Donna answered every one of them with a single word, okay. I asked her once if that was wise, letting Whitney believe the plan was still on. "I'm not stringing her along," Donna said. "I'm just done arguing with someone who isn't listening to a word I say." I had been married to this woman 36 years. I knew her particular brand of calm when she'd committed fully to a course of action. It was the same calm I'd watched her use with families at 3 a.m. when she had to tell them it was almost time. Patient. Clear-eyed. Finished negotiating. The boarding passes sat printed on the dresser next to my wallet for the better part of a week. 2 passes, 6:15 a.m., 8 days out, and we were already gone in every way that mattered. 6 days before the christening, Donna drove over to drop off a baby gift she'd found. A hand-knit blanket, something Whitney hadn't asked for and wouldn't have thought to. She let herself in through the garage like she always did and heard Whitney upstairs on the phone. "Bradley's definitely coming, him and his wife, plus some people from the regional office. I just need everything to look effortless." Mom's got the food handled, so that part's covered. Donna came home and sat at our kitchen table without taking her coat off. What happened? I said. She told me. Then she said, she doesn't think we'll actually do it. She thinks I'll show up at 4 in the morning because I always have. Then this christening's going to teach her something, I said. Donna almost smiled. 4 days before, I called Marcus myself, even though Donna had asked me to stay out of it. She'd already talked to him directly, and it hadn't moved an inch. But I'm his father, and there are things a man needs to hear from his father, especially the things he doesn't want to. Marcus, your mother got handed an 18-item list for 31 people with a 4:30 start time and 0 help. She told Whitney it was too much. You sat there and said nothing. I need you to fix this. A pause. Dad, I know, but Whit's already got the whole vision planned out. Marcus. Another pause. It's just this one time. I'd sat through enough budget meetings to recognize when a man was reciting lines that weren't his own. Those were Whitney's words, preloaded. I'm telling you plainly, I said. Your mother is not catering your wife's office party disguised as a christening. Fix it, Dad. I really think you're overreact. Good night, Marcus. I hung up. Donna was at the table when I came back in, and she read my face before I said a word. Well, she said, he's not ready to hear it yet. He will be, I said. She nodded slowly, stood up, walked to the hall closet, and came back with her suitcase. I want to tell you about a flannel shirt before I tell you what we packed. It's a red and black buffalo check, heavy cotton, from a hardware store outlet in Lancaster. I used to drive past on the way to job sites. I bought it because the cuffs didn't ride up when I reached overhead. I wore it every Sunday morning making my buttermilk biscuits, the one dish I actually own in our marriage. Margaret still talks about those biscuits, which I privately enjoy more than I let on. The shirt hung on a hook by the back door. There was a flour smudge on the left cuff I'd never bothered washing out. The night before the christening, while Donna packed, I went into the kitchen for no reason I could name. I took the shirt off the hook and held it a second. I thought about all the holidays I'd stood next to her at that stove, 30-some years of them. She ran the kitchen. I was support staff, and I never minded, because I knew where my limits were. I couldn't dice an onion to any standard she'd respect, but I could stand beside her for 6 hours, hand her things, make her laugh, and make sure she wasn't doing it alone. That was the piece Whitney had missed completely, not the labor. The company. I hung the shirt back up. It didn't need Asheville. It belonged here, just not for this one. In the kitchen, Donna had a legal pad in front of her, 4 lines already written, ink dried. She read it over once more, then set it in the middle of the table. Whitney, we love you and Marcus and Olivia, and that hasn't changed. But I cannot prepare a meal for 31 people alone before sunrise. I said so twice and wasn't heard. We're spending the weekend with Eleanor. We'll be home Monday. The kitchen is yours. Mom and Dad. She'd added and Dad in different ink, without me asking. She set a small ceramic salt cellar on top of the note to keep it from sliding, the one her own mother had given her. We stood in the kitchen a minute, lights on, house quiet. We're going to hear about this, I said. Yes. Marcus is going to be upset. Yes. I looked at her. 36 years, and she still had a way of looking back at me that said more than most people fit into a paragraph. You ready? I asked. I've been ready 2 weeks, she said. We called a car, stood in the driveway in the dark, waiting for it, suitcases at our feet. The driver didn't ask why 2 people were heading to the airport at 4:30 in the morning, which suited us fine. Harrisburg International at 5 in the morning has its own particular hush, like the building is holding its breath between one day and the next. I bought us 2 coffees from the kiosk that were aggressively bad, and we drank them anyway. Donna had 3 unread texts from Whitney sent the night before. Reminders, a checklist, a smiley face. Neither of us opened them. At boarding, my phone buzzed. Marcus. Hey Dad, swinging by around 8 to grab you and Mom. Whit wants everyone there by 9 to help finish setup. See you soon. He didn't know yet. We found our row. Donna took the window. The plane pushed back 6 minutes late, which felt about right. When the wheels left the ground, she reached over and put her hand on mine. Neither of us said anything. We didn't need to. Eleanor was waiting at Asheville arrivals with 2 paper cups of real coffee, and absolutely no dramatics, which is exactly what you want from a friend of 24 years. She hugged Donna first, then looked at me. Russell, you actually came. Did you doubt it? I thought Donna might talk you out of it on the drive to the airport. She tried, I said. Donna looked at me. Once, I added. We drove up into the mountains with the windows cracked, that early spring Carolina air thick with pine and something blooming I couldn't name. After 30-some years in central Pennsylvania, it felt like a different climate entirely. Eleanor's cabin sat back off the road with a wrap-around porch and a row of rocking chairs, and her old hound, a red bone named Scout, lifted his head off the floorboards to acknowledge us before going back to sleep. We took our coffee out to the porch. It looked down a slope toward a creek you could hear but not quite see. A hawk worked the thermals over the far ridge, going nowhere in particular with total authority. Donna's phone lit up on the porch rail, Marcus, then Whitney, then Paige. She turned it face down. "It won't stop," Eleanor said. "It'll stop when it stops," I said. She refilled my coffee. I sat back and thought, somewhere in Lancaster right now there's a kitchen with a note under a salt cellar and no ham in the oven. And here I am on a mountain porch watching a hawk do nothing at all. Marcus told me the rest of it in pieces over the following days, and I'll lay it out the way he did. At 8:50, Whitney came downstairs in a new white apron she'd bought specifically for the morning of photos, the vision being golden light, flour dust, the whole effortless tableau for her business page. The kitchen was dark and cold. No Donna, no Russell, no ham, no smell of anything. Just the table, the note, the salt cellar sitting on top of it like a small gray paperweight. She read it. Marcus came down 2 minutes later and found her still standing there, holding the page, not moving. He read it too. He told me later he stood 30 seconds without saying a word, then called my cell. No answer. Called Donna. No answer. Called again. Texted. Tried the house line on the chance we'd left our phones behind. Then he called Paige. Paige showed up at 9:15 still in her car coat. "Whit, can you cook a ham?" I've never cooked anything bigger than a chicken breast in my life. Tyler offered to look up a tutorial on YouTube. Nobody took him up on it. Meanwhile, 31 guests had RSVP'd. The photo arch was already up in the backyard. Bradley and his wife had confirmed within 20 minutes of the invite going out, the way people do when they're calculating exactly how the event fits their own calendar. By 9:30, Whitney had called 3 different caterers in the area. The first said Saturdays were booked solid a month out. The second could do a tray of cold cuts with 48 hours notice, not same day. The third didn't pick up. She hung up on the third one without leaving a message. Marcus drove to the giant grocery store at 10. The ham section, fully stocked 2 weeks earlier, was down to a handful of pre-cooked spiral hams. The smallest one 8 pounds, already cut into. He stood in front of the case with an empty cart and no good options. He came home with 2 rotisserie chickens from the deli, a tub of pre-made mashed potatoes, a bag of dinner rolls, a sheet cake from the bakery case with congratulations written on it in blue gel icing because it was the only one they had on hand, and a pre-made veggie tray because he remembered, at the last second, that Whitney had mentioned a charcuterie board. Paige tried to put together deviled eggs from a recipe on her phone, and forgot to watch the stove for the green beans, which scorched in the pan and left the kitchen smelling like burnt onion for the rest of the afternoon. Guests started arriving at 11. Bradley and his wife walked in at 11 on the dot, the precise punctuality of people attending a work-adjacent event who've already decided how long they intend to stay. Bradley wore a blazer. His wife handed Whitney a bottle of wine at the door, with a smile that gave away nothing. The table looked beautiful. Whitney has a genuine eye for arrangement. The linens, the floral centerpiece, the little name cards in calligraphy. She'd put real care into how it looked. Then the food came out. 2 rotisserie chickens on her good white china. Mashed potatoes with a slight gray cast to them under the dining room light. Dinner rolls cold in the center. The sheet cake with congratulations iced across it in looping blue script, because there hadn't been time to find one that didn't say that. Bradley's wife looked at the spread, set her wine glass down carefully, and said nothing. Whitney smiled at the table and said, "We had a bit of a last-minute change of plans. My in-laws came down with something." Bradley nodded. "That's a shame." In the kitchen, Marcus stood at the counter with his back to the room. He had asked his mother to cook for 31 people alone. She had told him plainly it was too much. He had told her, "Can you just do this one thing?" Standing there looking at 2 grocery store chickens on his wife's wedding china, he understood, in the way things finally land when they stop bouncing off you, what one thing had actually meant. Eleanor's mother's pulled pork was everything Eleanor had promised. Smoked low and slow, vinegar sharp, falling apart under a fork. Served with real cornbread, butter beans from her garden, and sweet tea strong enough to stand a spoon in. We ate it out on the porch as the afternoon light went gold and slanted through the trees. Scout asleep across the doorway, like he owned the whole mountain. I was telling Eleanor about a retaining wall job I'd consulted on the year before, a nightmare of a slope in the Poconos, when Donna's phone rang on the porch rail between us. Whitney. Donna looked at the screen, then at me, then at Eleanor. Eleanor studied her cornbread very closely. Donna picked up, "Mom." Whitney's voice came through a register higher than usual, tight at the edges. "Where are you? Do you have any idea what's happening here? Bradley is here, sitting at our table, and there is nothing ready. You couldn't even call." Donna set her fork down and looked out at the trees. "Whitney," she said, the same voice she'd use on a family at 4 in the morning, even and unhurried. "I told you I couldn't do this alone. I said it when the list came. I said it again at dinner 2 Sundays ago. Russell called Marcus directly and told him plainly. Nobody heard us." A pause. "So we made other plans." "That is so selfish. We'll be home Monday," Donna said. "I hope the rest of your afternoon goes well." She hung up. Eleanor refilled her own sweet tea without being asked. 20 seconds later, my phone rang. Marcus. I picked up. He didn't say anything right away. I could hear him outside somewhere, the muffled noise of the party behind a closed door, then just whined and quiet. "Dad." His voice had changed. The defensiveness was gone. What was left underneath it sounded like a man who'd stopped performing. I don't know what to say. I knew it was too much. I kept telling myself it'd be fine, that you and Mom would just, and I didn't say anything when I should have. He stopped. "I'm sorry, Dad. Tell Mom I'm sorry." I believed him. Marcus had never been a dishonest kid. He'd taken the easier road, kept quiet to dodge a fight, let things slide because confrontation cost him something he didn't want to pay. That's a failure of nerve, not of character, and I'd made the same mistake myself, plenty of times, long before he was old enough to copy it. "I know," I said. "We'll talk when we're home. Go take care of your guests. Is the food good up there?" I looked at the plate in front of me. The pork, the cornbread, the mountain light. My wife across the table finally loosened the shoulders for the first time in a month. "It's about the best meal I've had in years," I said. "Eleanor's mother's recipe." A pause. "Good, Dad." I could hear him steadying himself. "Good. Go on," I said. "Monday." After I hung up, Donna looked at me across the table. I picked my fork back up. "More pork," she said. "Please," I said. Marcus filled in the rest over the next few days. Bradley stayed an hour and a half, polite the whole time, the kind of man whose warmth scales exactly with how well things are going. He ate a full plate without complaint, complimented the centerpiece, which genuinely earned it. At some point his wife asked Marcus quietly, "Your parents usually do the cooking, don't they? Everything all right?" Marcus told her we'd had a prior commitment we couldn't move. True. Whitney from across the room told someone else there'd been a last-minute change of plans. Also true, depending on your definition of last minute. The two stories didn't quite line up. The way improvised cover stories never do when two people are solving the same problem from different angles without comparing notes first. Paige, who'd given up on the green beans entirely, sat down near the end of the table next to Tyler and looked over at her sister. "Whit, you should have asked them right." "Paige, don't." She didn't push it, but she held the look a beat longer than she needed to. The look of a younger sister who's finally run out of benefit of the doubt, before turning back to her plate. Guests cleared out by 2:30, early for a christening lunch that should have run into the evening. After everyone left, Marcus did the dishes himself. He told me later that was the first time in his marriage he'd cleaned up, after a big family meal start to finish. That surprised me until I thought about it, and then it didn't. Donna had always just done it. I'd helped here and there, but it had always been hers. Standing at the sink, Whitney came in and told him he should have called us more. Pushed harder. He turned off the water. I did call them. They told me it was too much. A pause. "You knew?" "Yeah," Marcus said. "I knew." He turned the water back on. Whitney didn't post a single photo from that day. She'd taken plenty earlier. The table before the food came out, the photo arch, baby Olivia in her little white gown, but none of them ever made it online. Bradley's next email to Marcus, the following Monday, was a routine note about a regional sales target. No mention of the christening at all. We flew home Monday afternoon into a gray, drizzly Harrisburg. The particular flat, overcast central Pennsylvania does so well. Just dramatic enough to make you miss the mountain light by comparison. The car pulled into our driveway and Marcus was sitting on our front steps. Not his house, ours. He'd driven 40 minutes to sit on a step without calling first, which told me he'd thought it through long enough to know a phone call wouldn't cover it. He stood up when I came up the walk. We looked at each other a second. Whitney didn't come, he said. Okay, I said. We went inside. Donna had gotten in just ahead of me, and the kettle was already going. The three of us sat at the kitchen table, same chairs we'd used for 30 years, the note long since cleared away. I knew it was too much and I said nothing, Marcus said. I kept telling myself it wasn't worth the fight. I let Whit treat you both like you'd just always be there, and I told myself that was fine. He stopped. It wasn't. No, I said. It wasn't. He looked at me like he expected more padding around the truth. I didn't have any to give him. Donna put her hand over his on the table. We love you, she said. That's never been in question. But we won't be made invisible for somebody else's convenience. Not even for yours. I hear you, Marcus said. Good, Donna said, and poured the tea. We sat there a while without rushing to fill the quiet. It was the kind of silence that only happens after something true finally gets said and actually lands. It was the best half hour the three of us had spent together in 2 years. Whitney called the following Wednesday, I answered. I want you to know, she said, what you did really hurt me. Whitney, I said, I understand it felt that way. I'd also like you to understand that handing someone a spreadsheet with their name highlighted under food prep and calling it a family invitation is hurtful too. We can talk about that honestly, or we can leave it here. Your call. Silence. Then she hung up. She called back 2 days after that. This time she talked less and listened more, asked how Asheville had been, said the mountains sounded nice, said she'd been doing some thinking. She didn't apologize outright, not in so many words, but she asked questions for the first time in 3 years, instead of just issuing instructions, and I took that as the closest thing to an opening we were likely to get. Donna took the second call. They talked for almost 20 minutes. Longer than they'd talked in years, Donna told me after, and not once did Whitney hand her a task in the middle of it. There was no big tearful resolution where everybody understood each other perfectly and vowed to be different people. That's not how any of this actually works. What changed was smaller and more useful than that. An assumption got removed. The one that said our time and our labor were simply available, on call indefinitely, no asking required. Once that was gone, things had to be discussed instead of assigned, which meant everyone had to start acting like people with actual choices. That was enough. Marcus started calling more, asking before deciding instead of updating us on plans already made. Small things, but they added up. Donna signed up for a watercolor class at the community center on Wednesday mornings, something she'd talked about for 2 years and kept putting off because there was always something somebody else needed first. We're going back to Asheville in October. Eleanor's already mapping out which orchard we'll visit for the apples. One Sunday morning, I put on the old buffalo checker shirt and made a batch of buttermilk biscuits just for the two of us. Donna poured the coffee and sat at the counter, and we didn't talk about Whitney or Marcus or the christening at all. We just had breakfast. Standing at the stove in that shirt, with the flour smudge still on the cuff, I thought, this is what it was always supposed to be. The two of us in this kitchen on a quiet morning with nowhere we had to be. This right here. A week or so after we got home, Donna was clearing out a closet and pulled down a shoebox marked Photos, Misk, in my handwriting. We brought it to the table and went through it together. Birthday parties from the 90s. Marcus at 9 holding up a sunfish, like he'd just won a championship. A church picnic neither of us could date. Near the bottom, Donna pulled out a photo from a Thanksgiving maybe 9 years back. Judging by the old wallpaper behind the stove, she was at the range. I was standing behind her, arms loose around her shoulders, my chin tipped toward her hair, both of us laughing at something I couldn't remember anymore. The oven timer was probably running somewhere in the background. Somebody had said something that landed exactly right. I didn't remember the photo being taken, but I remembered the feeling in it, being there, not stepping in for the parts that needed me and stepping back for the rest, just present for the whole of it, because that's where I wanted to be, because she'd never once had to ask. That was the thing Whitney never understood, and the thing Marcus had to relearn the hard way. You don't hand somebody you love a spreadsheet, you show up. Donna set the photo in a little frame and put it on the shelf by the back door, right next to the hook where the flannel shirt hangs. We stood looking at it a minute. We should have gone to Eleanor's years ago, she said. We were exactly where we needed to be, I said, until we weren't. She looked at me. That's awfully philosophical for a Sunday. I contain multitudes, Donna. She laughed, and I thought, that's what 36 years are actually for. Not producing a perfect christening lunch for somebody's boss. Producing this. Two people in a kitchen on a quiet morning, laughing at something small, with nowhere they have to be, and nobody they have to prove anything to.